Hey Raider Nation, thank you for joining us on the Only Nation podcast, brought to you by the Raider Ramble and sponsored by Chucky's Thugs. My name is Heidi, but you may know me as KevlarPromDress or even Raider Ladybug. Raider Homer is taking a couple of weeks off, so I'm here with T3RaiderFax, and we're ready to talk some Raiders football together.
And I don't want to steal Raider Homer's tagline, but you know, big guy, we are thinking about you. And we're here to talk about a big win against Denver, so let's get started.
Today on the show, we'll take our victory lap as Raiders welcome new head coach Rich Bisaccia to the sidelines with the most complete Raider performance of the year and a big 34-24 victory, which pushes the team's record to 4-2. And that would be first place in the AFC West.
Yes. Okay, Raider Nation, we would love to hear from you. So here's how you can get in touch with us. Give us a call on the Only Nation podcast voicemail line at 904-701-8667. That's 904-701-8667. You can also visit us on the web at onlynationpod.com, find all our episodes, and be sure to hit like and subscribe.
In our latest news, you might have noticed that we didn't have an episode last week. Well, that's not because we didn't try. We actually had one all wrapped up pretty perfect for you. And as we were wrapping recording, there was a little headline that hit the news. That headline said, John Gruden announces that he's going to resign. So everything that we had just recorded for the hour and a half was scrapped. And for everything else to go wrong that possibly could have gone wrong in the week, I got sick. It was just a bad week to record. So we just decided, hey, Raider Nation exploded. We exploded. We're just going to wrap it all up and we're going to bring it back together this week. So
I would say that at the tail end of the recording, I tore all my hair out, but since I have no hair, that wasn't really an issue. So once again, we apologize for leaving you all in the dark, but to be honest with you, a lot of us were in the dark last week, and we are now coming out of the dark and into the light. So let's get into some light here.
Yeah, it's not like we would have really been able to give you any news that hadn't already been news 20 seconds before. It's just better that way. It's better this way. It's not you, it's us.
It's good now.
It's good now. All right.
Here's the latest Raider news.
The Las Vegas Raiders and new head coach Rich Bisaccia went into Denver and came away with a 34-24 win over the division rival Broncos. Not only did this win, coupled with their Chargers loss, put them back into a first-place tie for the division lead, but it also gives the Raiders a 4-1 record in the AFC.
And that's really important because that 4-1 record is actually the best record among conference leaders when we're looking at potential wild cards. Now, I'll just come out and say it. The win over the Broncos was a huge sigh of relief for the entire organization as well as for Raider Nation. Now, I know everybody is feeling much better about the season, and I sense both the newfound strength and confidence across the board. I saw it in the swagger on the field, the execution of the offense, and I think a well-strategized game plan throughout.
It was a beautiful game, wasn't it?
It was.
It was like the Raiders had been released from a fog. And boom! All the, only playing good for one quarter or one half, all of that was just left aside. Punched them in the nose right from the start, scored on the opening drive. Yeah, we let them score on the opening drive that they took too. But the fact that we did it for the first time in almost a dozen games, right there, started off on the right foot, and it was great to see them continue playing that way the entire game.
Heidi, one of the things I like the best about the win, it was on Mike Shanahan Day.
That's music to my ears.
Wasn't that poetic justice?
On offense, Derek Carr was 18 for 27 for 341 yards and 2 touchdowns with no picks. And there were no lost fumbles, even though he was sacked twice. And there was one fumble, which the Raiders got back. Carr finished the day with a 12.6 yard average per completion and a final rating of 134.4.
Pretty good rating. And I'll quote the CBS television broadcast team. What a statement opening drive by the Las Vegas Raiders. On a 3rd and 2, Derek takes that deep shot to Henry Ruggs, who then makes a great catch and takes it to the house. And the Raiders never looked back from there. I think this was the start we'd all looked for. And Derek seemed to signal to the bench, yeah, we got this one, after he delivered the blow.
It was great to see, and yeah, it was empowering. You could just tell, yeah, we've got this. I've got it. We've got this. Now let's go. The Raiders did turn it around and give up an opening drive touchdown to the Broncos, their first since December of 2019. It was a little worrisome that the defense allowed Denver to convert on a 3rd and 12 to sustain the drive, but the defense really seemed to settle after that first offensive exchange. But through a large majority of the game, the defense played efficiently and carried out defensive coordinator Gus Bradley's game plan. On the day, the Raiders had 5 sacks, 3 interceptions, 8 pass deflections, and 1 forced fumble and recovery. It was the best defensive performance the Raiders have turned out in quite a few seasons.
You know, I was really worried when they gave up that first 3rd and 12, and I even thought Amik Robertson looked a little lost out there at first. But after giving up a touchdown, Brandon Faison picked up that interception, and that helped turn the confidence level around and swing the momentum back to the defense. At least I thought so. On the day, Teddy Bridgewater was harassed a bunch, and even though he escaped a few times and made some plays, you could tell he was frustrated, especially over on the bench. The Raiders did dodge a bullet when Bridgewater missed a wide-open receiver on a deep route that would have most assuredly gone for a touchdown. But time and again, this defense weathered the storm. I think Coach Bisaccia said it best when he said, quote, "This team is forging its identity through adversity," unquote. There is your mic drop.
Indeed. The running back tandem of Josh Jacobs and Kenyon Drake made their presence felt during the game against Denver. After a bit of a quiet start this season, Drake got his first touchdown in a Raiders uniform with a second quarter score on a 31-yard connection from Derek Carr. He followed that up with an 18-yard scoring run in the third quarter. Drake finished with 73 yards of offense, 34 rushing, 39 receiving, on just 6 touches. Meanwhile, Josh Jacobs ended up with 53 yards on 16 carries, 29 receiving yards, and a 3-yard touchdown run in the third quarter to put the Raiders up 31-10.
The thing I love is the screen pass to Josh Jacobs. I mean, when was the last time we saw that? I think the play calling showed good balance, and even though there were a couple of 3rd and shorts that the Raiders did not convert on, and one missed field goal by Daniel Carlson, which is uncommon, there was good movement of the ball and the emergence of a new number 1 receiver in the form of Henry Ruggs. And now it's time to go back home to take on the Eagles and then take a week to rest and regroup.
Yeah, that screen pass, I was like, what the heck? Oh, that's so beautiful. Wow. Forgot we could do that. Okay, so we're going to discuss 3 things on this week's show. We're each going to share a highlight from the game against the Broncos. Then we're each going to give out a game ball. Then we're going to look ahead with a key to win and a score prediction versus the Eagles. I'm going to start first with my highlight of the game. Oh, geez. How am I supposed to just
Take your
pick
pick.
one?
There were several.
You know what? I wouldn't be able to narrow it down. I would just have to say every single one of Max Crosby's sacks.
Okay.
I mean,
there you go.
that was an impressive performance. You know, that was a Raiders defensive ends tend to have good days in Denver. Haven't you noticed? That's where little Mac had his day. against Brock Osweiler. And Max Crosby had his day against Teddy Bridgewater. He was just everywhere, and he sucked him up just like a vulture, and there goes Teddy.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, he had a stellar game. And people can say this all they want, but even though Yannick Ngakoue has not had the numbers that we hoped he would have had at this point, he has made Max Crosby a better defensive end. And Max Crosby is gaining all the accolades as a result.
Yeah, but that's what I'm going to say. I'm going to say all of Max Crosby's plays, all of his sacks, that's my highlight. T3, what's your highlight?
Well, I'll tell you, the highlight that I have is actually a series of plays, and I've got to go back to Mike Mayock on this one. The acquisition of Kenyon Drake raised a lot of eyebrows, and the Raiders paid out a lot of money for him. And some people said, how in the world are you going to incorporate this guy and make him a part of the offense when you already have your workhorse Josh Jacobs? But we were all waiting to see how and when Kenyon Drake was going to be released. And I think this week is the week he came out. And he made his presence felt. He had a couple of big plays, a couple of touchdowns, and there was nobody happier on the sidelines and on the bench for Kenyon Drake's success than Josh Jacobs. I mean, when Kenyon Drake came off the field, Josh Jacobs was the first one to greet him and to chest bump him. And I think Josh Jacobs realizes that when Kenyon Drake is good, it makes the entire offense and Josh Jacobs better. And Kenyon Drake, I think, realizes the same thing about Josh Jacobs. So this was a coming out party, I think, for Kenyon Drake. And the 2 touchdowns that he had, of course, were the highlights. But I think just the coming together and bringing 2 backs into the fold and having them each be an important part of this offense, that's my highlight.
Okay. And we're each going to give out a game ball. So, T3, why don't you give out your first one?
Okay, there are a lot of potential game balls to be handed out. And I want to give an honorable mention, first of all, to Gus Bradley and the defensive scheme that came together. But this week's game ball, in my opinion, has to go to Ole, offensive coordinator Greg Olson. After a few years of not having that actual responsibility fall directly on his shoulders, I think he called a good game. Actually, I think he called a more than good game. It was a good mix of run and pass, and here's the key. He was getting those plays into Derek quickly, which allowed Carr plenty of time to survey the situation, take his time if he wanted, or even mess with the defense, as he put it. When you have trust in your quarterback, when you give him the keys, and when you're able to distribute things around to all the weapons, it really puts the defense back on his heels. Olsen could have very easily dialed up pass after pass to Darren Waller, but he didn't do that. Now, Waller still got his touches, but a lot more weapons were utilized. We saw a lot of Drake, Edwards, and Ruggs, in addition to Waller, Jacobs, and Renfro, and even Foster Moreau. This was a tough position for an offensive coordinator to come into a division opponent's house and take control, particularly under the circumstances. And Greg Olson did that. As Derek Carr said, he crushed it. And so I think Greg Olson deserves the game ball this week.
Very well said. I think Ole definitely deserves a game ball as well. My game ball, however, will be of one of the players playing out on the field, and it's not going to be hard to figure it out. My game ball is going to go to Max Crosby. Yeah, what can you say about Max Crosby? He ended the game with 6 total tackles, 4 assists, 3 sacks, and while he brought in his friends on a few of those, they were pretty much his. Those 3 sacks. The defense did great, but Max Crosby, 3 sacks. Quentin Jefferson had another one. Where did Quentin Jefferson come from? I mean, he's been racking these up. And even Corey Littleton. Corey who?
Quentin Jefferson and Solomon Thomas really stepped up. I mean, they were in there a lot, and Solomon Thomas's number was called a lot. And I think that push from the defensive line really helped Ngakoue and Crosby both to get to the quarterback, and they did a really good job.
Yeah. So really, You could almost give the entire defense a game ball. It would be fair. But I'm just going to narrow it down to max. Okay, so now the Raiders are going back home to face the Philadelphia Eagles. Here's how I think the Raiders can win the game, and then I'm going to give you my score prediction. I think the Raiders can win the game by playing the way they did against the Broncos. Playing alive. Starting off with that punch to the nose. Starting off with a scoring drive. Being consistent. A lot of play action. A lot of activity on the line. Not the kind of activity that we've been seeing from Alex Leatherwood. We almost made it an entire game without a penalty for him. I was really hoping. It was how many minutes left in the game was that when he got his first penalty last week? Like 12 minutes or something. He almost made it.
Yeah.
But we need a little bit of activity online, a little bit of play action. Don't force the run that isn't there. If it's not there, try a screen. Or go to a double tight end set, see what works. I think everything's going to come together. I'm weary to see any Mariota packages. It would be cool, but I don't think it's going to be necessary for a win. I think that's what is needed for a win is just to wake up. The offensive line needs to hold together. They did a little bit better. So keep on gelling, keep improving. It'll start to come together. And our defensive run defense was a little bit better too. So focus on the offensive line, focus on defensive run defense, and focus on staying awake. Those are going to be my three things. In the trenches and stay awake. Boom. There. Little scattered, but that's what I say. Trenches, stay awake. Win.
I think those are pretty simple. Pretty basic.
Yeah. I'm just God, I miss Homer. I'm just all out of sorts.
You have nobody to pick on.
I know. I just I feel empty.
Makes it a little different.
Yeah, it does. Anyways, score prediction: Raiders over the Eagles, 31-17.
31-17. I like that. I hope it actually is that much of a distance in between the two. And I do agree with you. I think if we can hold the offensive line together, and if we continue with that defensive pressure and bring back the tackling that kind of improved as the game went along. It was a little suspect at the beginning against Denver, but I think it got stronger as the game went along. I think we'll be okay. Okay, now that we've gotten some of the controversy and really bad feelings behind us and a new confidence going forward, I think the home fans will greet the Raiders with all the love and passion that they deserve. Now, the Eagles are not a very good team this year, but then neither were the Bears. And I think that's something that the Raiders have to make a note of. The other thing they have to make a note of is not to let a running quarterback beat them. You see, I think Jalen Hurts can beat the Raiders with his legs, but not with his arm. The Raiders need to control the ball on offense, keep Hurts in check on the defensive side, and play a lot like they did against Denver for the most part. The team can't let up, and they can't play from behind. Now, while I hope they can put a performance similar to what they had this past week up against the Eagles, I'm going to count on turning it on just enough to get by against an Eagles team that I think will come in and surprise a few people. I say that the Raiders get the win by a score of 28-24.
Okay, that sounds good. Well, T3, why don't you bring us your top three for the week?
T3's top three.
All right, Heidi, here is this week's top three. Number one, penalties. The Raiders had 6 for a total of 54 yards. And you know, that's fairly manageable. There weren't any real killer penalties on the offensive line, and I think they held up really well against Von Miller and company. Let's hope that continues to be the blueprint for this team, and if they can make it through one more week, they can then take a week to get healthy and get even more help down the line. Number two, I want to make a comment about Yannick Ngakoue. He may not be getting the big sack numbers this year, but he is definitely making his presence felt, and he is making Max Crosby that much better this season. So I just want to take the time to give him his props and remind everyone that sometimes key plays and players don't always show up on the stat sheet, but they're still there. And number 3, I want to make one final comment on the whole email controversy and then move on. I don't hate John Gruden, even though I found a lot of his comments to be horrific and embarrassing. But we've all made horrific and embarrassing comments at some point. But this is all about accountability. I applaud the Raiders organization for a history of excellence in diversity, acceptance, and inclusion. Let this be a lesson to everyone. Let our words and our actions carry us forward, not backward. And if we make a misstep, we need to own it and then atone for it. Rich Bisaccia is the man of the hour, and I'm placing my trust and my faith in him. And I am not taking off these colors. No way. It's now time for us to rally behind that old phrase, commitment to excellence. And that is this week's top 3.
All right, amen. Really quick hit of your list. Penalties. Yeah, they didn't kill us. That was actually pretty decent. I know I had already mentioned Alex Leatherwood did not have many. And I believe he only did have the one. But that was pretty good. 6 penalties for 54 yards. If we can do that consistently, we'll win. Max Crosby, I have been going off about him this entire episode. But you're right, without Yannick Ngakoue, Max Crosby wouldn't be getting sprung the way he is. It's both of them that's making the difference. So, hats off to you, Yannick. You definitely deserve. Let's see. I'll slice the game ball in half and I'll give it to both of you.
Oh, there you go. That's generous.
2 tiny game balls. I'll give one to Max and
2 sides of a coin that go together.
yeah, perfect. And I agree, going on about this email controversy, there's really no point to it. I still like John Gruden, but some of the things he said were horrible and unbefitting of the Shield for sure. I understand they were said at a different time, and knowing him probably in jest or just talking smack, because that's the kind of stuff that came out that I could totally see him yelling it in a referee's face and not mean one word of it, but have it sound very, very bad. But regardless, you can't be saying stuff like that and expect to keep your job. To be the coach of the Raiders is a very distinguished, very commendable position. And if you're saying stuff like what he said in the emails, that doesn't jive. You can't be saying stuff like that and be a coach of the Raiders. It just doesn't work. The history of inclusivity, lack of racism, the first African American coach, the first Hispanic coach, the first female president. That's what the Raiders stand for. We don't stand for the stuff that he was saying in those emails. And for that reason, he did have to go. But I think it's time to move on. And it's time to just talk about winning. And let's go Raiders.
And I wish him well. He will land on his feet. It may take some time. But we have more important things to do now, and that's focusing on Raider Nation, on the Raiders team, and on future success. Commitment to excellence.
All right, give us a call at 904-701-8667. Leave us a voicemail or text message at that number, or send in a message via social media, and we'll share your thoughts. And this week we have a voicemail from Raider Art. Check it out.
What is going on, the Only Nation podcast crew? This is Raider Art coming from the Stanislaus County in California. It was a big win for the Raiders against the Broncos last Sunday, so that was great. Derek Carr's doing well. I can't get enough with him, and don't know what to say about him. I'm not that biggest fan of him at all, but I'm just pretty sure, he needs to step up more in the next couple of games, especially with the Eagles for this Sunday for sure over at Las Vegas. Don't know what to say about John Gruden, but I just wish him the best with what he does. Let's see what the new coach is going to be doing for this year or this season. So I'm off, and thanks again for all of you guys, and I'll talk to you guys soon.
Thanks for calling, Raider Art. We always love hearing from you. And yeah, that was a great game against the Broncos. It was really wonderful to see the Raiders dominate against a team. Not a nail biter down to the finish, but the last half of the game, you could kind of feel it's never in the bag, but I was feeling a lot more relaxed than I had a lot of other games this year. I think we're going to see more of that leadership from Derek Carr. We're going to see it starting in the Eagles game, and I think it's going to continue this season. So, looking forward to it. Thanks again for calling. And this week on the Raider Roots podcast, we are going to revisit the year 1971. The Raiders didn't make the playoffs that year, but they did welcome a couple of rookies who I'm sure most every Raider fan is familiar with, Jack Tatum and Phil Villapiano.
Who a lot of people just know as Phil V.
Yeah, because he can't pronounce his last name like I can't. Believe it or not, listeners, it took me 73 times to get that last recording of saying his name right. 73. Okay, I'm lying. It was only like 3. It felt like 73.
We'll just refer to him as Phil V from here on out.
Okay. All right, and we are still going to continue the segment Homer Did You Know, but since Homer isn't with us this week, we'll just call it Did You Know?
Did you know?
Okay, it's time for this week's Did You Know? In this segment, I will ask Heidi and our entire listening audience a Raiders-related question with 3 possible answers to choose from. It's multiple choice, so just give it your best guess. So here goes. Here is this week's question. And Heidi, you may know the answer to this one. In 2009, the Oakland Raiders hosted the Philadelphia Eagles in the Alameda Coliseum, a game in which they won 13-9. After Sebastian Janikowski kicked a field goal to make the score 13-6 Oakland, he kicked off. The Raiders' special teams was then assisted on the kickoff by which of the following creatures? Was it A, a squirrel, B, a black cat, or C, a pigeon? Heidi, what's your guess?
Oh, man. No matter what I guess, I'm going to guess wrong. Squirrel would be cute. A black cat would be appropriate because, come on, we're the Raiders. But a pigeon, pigeon, it could be a pigeon. There's a lot of pigeons around there.
Is that your answer?
No. I'm going to say a black cat because I'm a cat person. I'm going to say a black cat.
You should have gone with your first instinct. So the answer is C, a pigeon. And it's funny, the pigeon actually lined up between the 2 outside guys, went down the field on the kickoff as the ball was kicked, and then actually set up the whole contain. It was one of the most amazing things to see, and it definitely went viral. I highly recommend everybody to go through and search Eagles versus Raiders pigeon, and you will see that.
Is this the one that it flew along to?
Yeah, it flew right along with the players as they went down the field. And then as the players were closing in, the pigeon actually went outside and landed to hold contain. He actually was the best coverage of any of the special teams players and was noted by the broadcast crew. It was amazing. Well, there you go. That is this week's version of Did You Know?
I feel so ashamed.
No. When you go back and When you go back and look at the video of it,
I'll
you'll see,
remember
and
it.
you'll watch it more than
I'll
once.
remember
You'll
it.
watch it more than once. You will. You'll remember it. And hey, this is an opportunity for me because I get a chance to announce this. This is the first time I've ever had a chance to do this. And now, Raider Nation, it's time for Heidi's Heroes.
Flying away on a wing and a prayer. Who could it be?
On April 15th, 2013, Marathon Monday in Boston, 38-year-old Heather Abbott of Newport, Rhode Island and Charleston, South Carolina, set out on an annual tradition with several of her friends. They would attend the Red Sox home game, and then they would walk over to Boylston Street to watch the marathoners cross the finish line. Little did Heather know, this day would change her life forever. 2 bombs exploded in the crowd of well-wishers that afternoon. Heather was impacted by the second blast and literally blown into the entrance of a nearby restaurant. Former New England Patriots lineman Matt Chatham and his wife Erin saw Heather in the bloody aftermath and carried her to safety. After 3 surgeries in 4 days, Heather was faced with an agonizing decision. Face a lifetime of agonizing pain from her injuries, or allow doctors to amputate her left leg below the knee. With the counsel and comfort of amputees who came to visit her in the hospital, and after much soul-searching, Heather made the difficult decision to live as an amputee. Her recovery, as it is for so many other victims of traumatic injury, was a journey through pain, anger, fear, disbelief, self-doubt, and questioning. For Heather, the ability to move forward and came through the support of family and friends, fellow amputees, and the countless strangers who not only sent her cards and letters of encouragement, but who also generously donated to a special fund to help her transition and receive the customized prosthesis she needed to live the life that she once knew. Today, Heather is once again doing everything she loves to do, including paddleboarding, running, and even wearing high heels. I don't even wear high heels.
Neither do I.
I find that comforting to know.
Yes.
Through it all, Heather has remained a model of strength and perseverance. Her determination and passion to help other limb loss victims is evident in everything she does. As a certified peer counselor for the American Amputee Coalition, Heather is able to provide hope and emotional healing. As a nationally known motivational speaker, she reminds audiences of the power of positive thinking and the real impact compassionate giving can have on the life of someone in need. For Heather, the Heather Abbott Foundation is both an obligation and an opportunity to pay it forward, to give to other amputees who have suffered limb loss through traumatic circumstances the chance to live their life again. So what happened after Heather lost her leg and she was given the donations that she needed to get the custom prosthesis to continue her life the way she had previously lived? She started a foundation, and this foundation gives grants to people who have had a limb loss and need custom prosthesis to regain functioning of their life. Now, these prostheses cost about $30,000 a piece. So just one grant is a lot of money, and it's something that, most insurances don't cover. They might cover some really basic one, but a custom one to really cover what somebody needs to return to normal functioning in their life, that's not going to be covered by insurance. And Heather's foundation allows for people to get those prostheses to return to function, which is pretty amazing. I don't know if she's a Raiders fan. I sure hope she is. But even if she's not a Raiders fan, well, she's still my hero for this week.
And that's a really good hero. It's a really good call when you think about all the tragic events that have happened, that people have stepped up and turned a tragedy into something positive, this is just another example. I'd like to think that if I ever lost a limb, I could be a positive role model like Heather Abbott and put something together like she has, but she's done it. You could talk the talk, but it's you actually walk the walk. That's the difference. And that's exactly what Heather's doing. Even though she's walking that walk with a prosthetic, she's making a difference in the lives of many people. She's uplifting them and showing them that despite tragedy, you can triumph. And that really can be the rallying cry for this year's Raiders team, that despite tragedy, there can be triumph. And we can kind of take that as a Raider Nation rallying cry ourselves. So, Heather Abbott, you are indeed a hero and you're an inspiration. But maybe Raider Nation can take a cue from all of your heartfelt frustrations and hardships and turn those around as well. So, good call on this, and I think a good connection between Heather Abbott and the Raider Nation, regardless of what team she pulls for, which is probably the New England Patriots.
I know.
We'll let that go.
Nobody's perfect. But if you'd like to find out more about Heather Abbott, you can look her up online at heatherabbottfoundation.org. And you can read more about her story or even send a donation, which would be fantastic.
Absolutely.
And that about does it for this week on the Only Nation podcast. Next week, well, we'll see what happens next week. Raider Homer will probably still be on a break, so unless they let...
We hope he comes back soon.
Do they, does prison let people out for good behavior?
They might let him out on furlough, but then bring him back in. So maybe we can get him out on furlough to at least do the show.
That'd be worth a shot. If you'd like to help support the show, you can send a donation at paypal.me/onlynationpod. You can find me, Heidi Stabbert, on social media as at KevlarPromDress on Twitter and Instagram, or Heidi Stabbert on Facebook. You can also find me on YouTube on Captain Jack Rackham's channel every other Tuesday night. I join the DC wench Peggy Holmes and Angria Trask on The Captain and His Wenches show.
All right, Raider Nation, we want you with us every step of the way during the regular season. So here's what we would like you to do. Send us your name and address so we can send you some free Raiders swag and podcast stickers. Call us and tell us what you want to know. Throw us an interesting nugget that we can use on one of our upcoming episodes and become a part of what we're doing right here. Remember, this is the Only Nation, and we want you to be a part of it. So call us 904-701-8667. That's 904-701-8667. Call us now and join the Only Nation podcast family. There are two easy ways to find me on social media. You can send me a tweet at T3_sports703, as several of you do, or you can hit me up on Facebook at Tom, Thom Jones. I will do my best to respond back, and I would love to include your comments on an upcoming show. And thank you for tuning in, also getting involved. And once again, thank you for all your support of the Raider Roots podcast, which is produced by Heidi Stabbert.
As always, we look forward to hearing from you guys. Until next time, everyone, go Raiders.
Hey, much love to our guy, Raider Homer. We hope to have you back soon. But in the meantime, Raiders.